Off-season content continues with a very special show, Mace, because we have never done this before. You and I have never done a Would You Rather. So before we jump into today's topic and a Would You Rather, explain to our listeners how y'all did this back on 760, Orange and Blue 760.
Yes, I've done a lot of orange and blue over the years, right? So yeah, this was designed to present some uncomfortable choices. This is the whole point of Would You Rather is the answer isn't supposed to be obvious where one is great and one is awful. You're generally presenting two choices that bring different types of pain, right? Or maybe they're both positive and negative in some way. But it's supposed to be a conundrum. The answer is not supposed to be easy. So I say this to warn you that there's something coming that might be very triggering for you in Broncos country here. So brace yourself, okay? This might hurt a little bit.
Yes. Should we show them the picture?
Yeah, this was something I worked on late one night at Coors Field after covering a Rockies game, and it gave me the hives. I'm not gonna lie about that. So yeah, let's put it up there.
Okay. Would you rather have the Broncos win one Super Bowl in the next 10 years, but the Chiefs win 4 in the rest of Pat Mahomes' career, or have neither team win a Super Bowl for the rest of Mahomes' career?
Yeah, and
This
so
is ugly.
It's ugly.
I don't like this.
Yeah, that first part of it, the Broncos get a Super Bowl. Yay!
They get one. Yay!
A 4th trophy in the cabinet, but the Chiefs get 4 more with Mahomes, which means 7 with Mahomes and 8 in total. Of course, by the time they get 8, it's funny I used the shot of Arrowhead Stadium there. They may not be at Arrowhead Stadium by the time they get 8. They might be at some palace in Johnson County, Kansas.
Yeah. Hopefully the Hunt family would get better reviews from the players in that season-ending survey, but still, I had to go
wow.
there. I had to go there.
You know what? Because there are some people who say that's not a big deal. No,
it's a big deal.
That actually is a big deal internally.
Yes. Ask the players. That's a big deal.
And look, when the Broncos got some bad reviews after 2023, after the 2022 season in early 2023, you know what? They went and improved those things.
Yep.
And lo and behold, they got higher marks from the players. There's a reason why you often hear players talking about ownership with praise. That's pretty universal. Now, does it mean you're winning Super Bowls? No, it's not everything. You can have great ownership, but if you don't have the quarterback, you're not going to win much. You can have shaky ownership, but if you got the quarterback, it transforms everything. I mean, did people think highly of the Irsay family owning the Colts before Peyton Manning walked in the door? No, right?
Not at all.
Now, is Jim Irsay a better owner than his father, the late Robert Irsay, who moved the team from Baltimore? Would angrily call down to the coaches on the sideline during a game, infamously had a press conference and at BWI Airport drunk. Okay. Jim Irsay is miles and miles ahead of Robert Irsay. But we're not sitting here saying Jim Irsay is one of those top level owners, right?
Right.
Peyton Manning
makes all the difference.
Peyton Manning changed the Colts organization. Probably changed the Broncos organization for the better as well. So you can have great ownership and you're not winning. Patrick Mahomes is the best deodorant in Kansas City.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes is a unicorn, like a complete unicorn. And that's where Patrick Mahomes may actually be better than Tom Brady, because the New England Patriots were actually a pretty well-run franchise under Robert Kraft before Tom Brady got there. The big leap the Patriots made organizationally was when Bob Kraft bought the team in 1993, right? Or is it 93, 94? My bad. It was right around there. They drafted Drew Blitz. I think it may have been like early 94. That was the huge leap forward for the New England Patriots. And then Tom Brady comes in and you have the marriage of coach, ownership, quarterback, management. It was symbiotic, and it was wonderful for 2 decades in Foxborough.
Right.
Kansas City doesn't quite have that, but Patrick Mahomes is so good. And I'd argue that Andy Reid he's working his way up to be the equal of Bill Belichick, I think.
Yeah. And think of how a quarterback changes that, because before Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid was the guy that couldn't win it all.
Yes.
And now this nightmare fuel might happen.
Yes. Oh, so to the original question, would you rather, because with those 8, we're talking about one point in the next 10 years, the Broncos win a Super Bowl. And so there's a decent chance that we're talking about Bo Nix being a Super Bowl winning quarterback in that conversation.
Yes.
Now, maybe it's not. Maybe he struggles, and maybe it doesn't work out. And in 3 years, I'm going to just go with Arch Manning. Let's just do total fan service here, right? Arch Manning, Broncos quarterback, if Bo Nix doesn't pan out, and win a Super Bowl that way, and everybody is happy and everyone's feeling good about that. But at the end of the day, the Kansas City Chiefs have 8 Lombardis and the Broncos have 4. Championships are forever, Super Bowls are forever, and it would be great to have another trophy. But can you bear, in Broncos country, can you, the fan, bear to watch Kansas City win 4 more with Mahomes if the Broncos get 1?
I'm going to add a wrinkle into this, Mace.
Okay.
Because I think a wrinkle is needed, because it's going to change what people's answer is. My answer is Super Bowl no matter what. Even if that means Kansas City gets 4 more. But here's the thing.
I am too. I will take the pain. I will take the pain for the joy of winning it all.
Yes.
Because it does put you above almost everybody else. Like if you get that 4th, you're ahead of everyone but New England, Kansas City in this scenario.
Right.
San Francisco, Pittsburgh. Like unless somebody like Chicago has come out of nowhere and wins the other titles, you're still sitting there saying, "Man, we're one of the top dogs in this here league."
Now,
feeling
here's
pretty good.
The wrinkle. Are you ready for this wrinkle?
Yes.
The year that you win it, Mahomes is hurt for the whole year.
Ooh.
It's kind of the Rodney Harrison takes out Tom Brady type thing. So, you get it. You get the Super Bowl, but you didn't go toe-to-toe with Mahomes, and you didn't take him down.
Are you telling me that you think Pittsburgh doesn't get title number 6 if Tom Brady doesn't get hurt?
Yeah. Pittsburgh didn't have to deal with that. And they got a couple during the New England run. I know Super Bowl 40 is terrible, but Pittsburgh never had to go through Tom Brady. What if so you get 1.
They tried. The first year of Roethlisberger, they tried and lost.
Right,
15-1 at home at Heinz Field and lost. And by the way, go back to 01, the 01 season, Pittsburgh, AFC Championship game at home, Cordell Stewart year.
Yep.
Brady gets hurt. Drew Bledsoe comes in. They still lost.
Exactly.
See, that's where the Broncos had something on Pittsburgh, because the Broncos could beat New England in the playoffs, right?
Right.
And Pittsburgh, who's to say? Who's to say that? If not for the Patriots, Joe Flacco maybe has 2 rings.
Exactly. So we
got a Joe Flacco show coming later on in
right. Oh, we got plenty of Joe Flacco to talk about.
That's something to chop up there, but I digress.
So what about that asterisk? Because people are going to say well, you got a Super Bowl, but you didn't beat Mahomes. You got the 1 year Mahomes was down. You got one. Congratulations, but you're beating up on Blaine Gabbert or whoever his backup would be at the time. Right. So, that the conversation would be, you can't beat Mahomes. You got one.
Okay.
They got 4 more in the next 10 years because you can't beat Mahomes. Regular season aside, playoffs. You're like Buffalo. You just turtle on your back. Can't beat them.
Rings are forever, man. Do we denigrate the Broncos Super Bowl 50 championship because that was a moment where the Patriots offensive line was struggling? Because remember, they went through like that period where legendary assistant coach Dante Scarnecchia wasn't full-time. And that included 2015, and their own line took a hit, and then Scarnecchia came back for a couple more years. Because, of course, that day, that AFC Championship game, they could not protect Tom Brady. Actually, both of them, 2013 and 2015. Yep. I guess here's what I would say on this and whether it means something, okay? I know there are people out there who sit here and they're not in Denver, okay? I want to make it clear. These people are not in Denver. And they say, oh, the Nuggets got the 7th-seeded Lakers and the 8th-seeded Heat, right? When they won in 2023. Like, you got to break that the Heat took out the Celtics. You got to break that Giannis was hurt and Miami upset them in round 1, right? The Lakers were not, the Lakers were a shadow of themselves. I mean, so I get that, but
you got to be who's in front of you.
They don't take down the banner. And oh, by the way, in the AFC, okay, let's say it's a year where Mahomes is hurt. Do we feel pretty good that the AFC for the next several years is going to be still pretty stocked at quarterback?
Murderer's row.
Okay. So in other words, maybe you're not taking out Mahomes, but you're navigating potentially Josh Allen.
Yep.
You're navigating Joe Burrow. I don't think Allen and Burrow are going anywhere anytime soon.
Nope.
You're navigating Lamar Jackson now. That may depend on how well he holds up physically and to how long he lasts. Like, is he going to be Cam Newton and age a little bit faster because of the accumulated wear and tear? I don't think so, because he runs away from contact. Cam tended to run to contact. So I think Lamar is going to age a little bit more like Steve Young. Like, Steve Young could still move into his mid-30s, right? And he was still dynamic. And I think that's how – but, Young, he could be tough. But he ran away from contact. And also with Cam, he was so big and powerful. It took 2 guys to bring him down, so he's taking twice as much force. Right. So I think we're still talking about Lamar Jackson being an elite quarterback into 2028, 2029.
Think about the strides C.J. Stroud's going to make.
C.J. Stroud, yes, he's going to be. And you know what? I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be there for a while too in Jacksonville.
Does Harbaugh figure out Justin Herbert?
Does Anthony Richardson take that promise of his rookie season and become something forceful? Like, I mean, this is a minefield. We haven't even talked about in the AFC if Drake May blossoms in New England eventually.
Right.
I like Drake May, the prospect. I like Drake May, the quarterback. I don't like Drake May, the situation in New England right now.
No.
To go back to the beginning of the show, they got great ownership. I'm not sure about Gerard Mayo. I'm not sure about that coaching staff developing a quarterback.
Right.
So.
But that natural talent could overcome a bad staff.
So, yeah, you're talking about. So, I think even if you don't have Mahomes, you're still looking at such a minefield in the AFC to where maybe in Kansas City they're saying, oh, you didn't have to get past Mahomes because he was hurt. That's how you got your cute little title. And we got 4 more with Mahomes and got 8. Like, I mean, geez. They're saying stuff like that. But to quote Patrick Waugh, you got Super Bowl rings in your ears, baby. And the Broncos, the franchise, would have 4 of them. And oh, by the way, this new ownership group would have 1, which I think would underscore their success as well. So, yeah, rings are forever, man. Like, okay. You can, and some of this is you can't worry about the race that somebody else is running. You got to run your own race.
I like that.
Okay.
Put it on a t-shirt.
Kansas City has Patrick Mahomes. They're going to do what they do. You try to challenge it as best you can, but you got to run your race. Okay. And here's another thing. It's possible we could be talking about the Broncos getting this Super Bowl without even winning a division title. Okay. What if the Broncos play? What if the Broncos, they get their Super Bowl in a year where they're a wild card? That's fine. Who cares? They're a wild card. They go on the road. Kansas City won the division because maybe Mahomes wasn't hurt, or who cares? Right.
Right.
I mean, is it more fun to have it at home? Yes. It's more fun to have it at home where your fans can celebrate with you. But, oh, by the way, whether you play a playoff home game or not, there's that little thing called a parade when you get back home after winning a Super Bowl that everyone can celebrate in. So it's you get your moment. If you're a Broncos fan here in the Mile High City, you get your moment.
Well, I will quote Dave Chappelle and say, if you got hate in your heart, let it out. Like, if you're going to deny one ring because the Chiefs, it's going to look like that. Okay. But as a Broncos fan, you could say, all right, you guys got 4 more, but there was that 1 year we got you. Mahomes, no Mahomes, whatever. But there was that 1 year we got you. So, yeah, we all can't stand Chiefs fans. I'm sorry. One of my buddies is a big Chiefs fan. I buy comic books from him, so I try to be nice. But anyway, it's like, yeah, I can't stand the Chiefs or Chiefs fans, basically. But you know what? That one ring, it's all that matters.
Yeah. It's more important to focus on what you've done than what they've done. Is it going to be frustrating? Yeah. And those 4 years that we're talking about in this scenario where they win, it's going to hurt. Broncos country rooted for the 49ers as if they were their own back in February.
Mm-hmm.
We all felt it. And probably I can't think of a Super Bowl that would have hurt more that didn't directly involve the Denver Broncos if the Broncos had lost. I can't think of an outcome that would have hurt Broncos country more than what we saw. Overtime, 49ers losing to Kansas City.
Right.
And the inevitability of how it felt when the Chiefs were driving down the field. Once they got that 4th down conversion in overtime, and by the way, I mean, think of this like there's never been a play like that in the Super Bowl. 4th down for that you could win. It was match point, like in tennis.
Yeah.
San Francisco had match point on the Chiefs and couldn't close them out. Patrick Mahomes staved off match point in the Super Bowl.
He's incredible.
Yeah. But you know what I remember? The angle I had, because I was at the game, the angle I had on that, Cease, and you saw the path opening up, and I knew like probably within a second of the snap, I'm like, oh, he's got it. There was no suspense for me watching that play as right after the snap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I saw where everyone was aligned, and then the moment you see it pop up, okay, he's got it. That's it, done. Isn't that sad? Like a kind of an ultimate play in Super Bowl history in terms of the scenario set up, and it was just like it felt routine. That's how good he is. It's but more specifically, it's how many problems he caused the defense because he puts so much stress on defense. It's pick your poison mode, right? Which is why it gets a little scary if you talk about them having better pass catchers this year than last year.
Yep.
Now, some of that pass catching equation, whether it's better this year than last year, also depends on Travis Kelce and at what point age and accumulated wear and tear starts to catch up to him.
I hate to sound like a fanboy, but they have Jared Wiley. And I'm not saying he's Travis Kelce because nobody is.
That hurts you when they picked him.
I got physically ill.
Yeah.
Why does this game do this to me? Like,
Okay, which pick hurt you more when it happened, Isaiah Pacheco or Jared Wiley?
probably Wiley. Just
Oh,
knowing that you're
oh,
taking over for Kelsey one day. You know,
yeah,
like you're
I
not
know.
gonna take. There's a step down. I'm not saying he's Travis Kelsey, but like you're still maintaining that. Pacheco's, you can find charging running backs in the 7th round.
I'm just glad that they didn't do what I thought they were going to do in 2020. I thought they would pick Jonathan Taylor. They picked Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That was an example of getting too cute, because if they had picked Jonathan Taylor, dear God.
Game over. Game over.
Like they do miss some. I put that out there to say the mighty Chiefs do miss sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You wish they missed more. Okay.
Yeah. That's
So,
Brett Veach, though.
Yeah. So let's explore this. We basically said we're going to take the Chiefs winning 4 to get the Broncos 1.
Mm-hmm.
Let's explore the other possibility real quickly here, though, because the Chiefs get none. So that means this is it. Patrick Mahomes did not win any more Super Bowls in Kansas City.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay. But the Broncos don't get any Super Bowls in the next 10 years. What happened if this transpires? Because I have a theory on how I expect it would have gone. Okay?
Let me throw out what I think, and you tell me if it matches. Yeah. You held on to Bo Nix too long. If you're telling me it doesn't work out, I'm thinking like Nix flashed enough, like he's good enough. He's Derek Carr. Yeah. But you can't win it all with him. What did you think?
I think partially it's that. Or partially Bo Nix just doesn't work out and you're still the Cleveland Browns and you're cycling through quarterbacks and you're trying it. Like,
I definitely don't want that scenario.
Yeah, I don't want that either. But there's another possibility here that comes into play. Jim Harbaugh in Los Angeles gets the Chargers right. And the Chargers become the power in the AFC West. Now, with Harbs, we know there's a shelf life. I don't think he's coaching that team more than 5 years. He coached 4 in San Francisco. I'm going to say 1 more year in LA if things are going well before everyone's finally like, okay,
enough.
We can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
But here's why I say that. The Chargers and Harbaugh and Herbert, with that offensive line they're building, I think Alton Slater, within the next couple of years, are talking about the best bookend tackles in football. By the way, you can't spell Slater without ALT, Alt.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. You know me, I like stupid little.
These are the football insights.
Things like word and language and letters and alphabet play like
don't
that.
Get me started on etymology. But anyway. Yes,
exactly. Yeah. Okay. So what happens there is the Chargers become the power in the AFC West. Bo Nix is, maybe he works out, maybe he doesn't. Maybe it's Derek Carr. Raiders never won a division with Derek Carr. They made the playoffs a couple of times. There were some years they were a really strong challenger. And certainly 2016, when Carr got hurt late in the regular season, that's their might have been year. As you look back on it, it's wild to think that, but turned out the Raiders had a window. Once it shut very quickly because of injury, it turned out that was it. And the other time it shut because of what went down with John Gruden. If you don't have the emails and all that from John Gruden, he keeps his job. I think the Raiders in 2021, that playoff appearance would have been the start of something for them.
Yes. Yep.
Like they in 2021, early that season, it looked like they were starting to arrive, and then blew up. Been doing that a lot this week. Mind blown, brain blown, all that. Okay.
So if Dan Snyder had not been investigated, then John Gruden wouldn't have got caught.
Yes. of course, as my dad would say, the point is not to have those thoughts in the first place, let alone put them on an email.
I don't think people want to know how prevalent that mindset is in the league.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also,
like it or not, John Gruden is still used by teams.
I also having lived in Tampa a long time ago, I'm sort of aware of how some in the Tampa football mafia talk. It was because you had arena foot. I was on the arena football side back in the '90s, and there were people around there well into the even in the 2010s. So yeah, I can say I wasn't surprised. There was actually an email scandal that took down the late Tim Markham, the longtime arena football coach at Tampa Bay Storm, who won 3 titles with Tampa Bay with that Storm franchise. So it was funny, like a decade later, to see it happen with John Gruden. If you know about Tampa Bay football, not just the Bucs, but Tampa Bay football as a whole, you weren't surprised at that, given the history. So
right,
because it was a small world. It's a small world still is. Everyone was connected, kind of in that Gruden sphere. Because remember, Jay Gruden, John Gruden's brother, Jay Gruden, played arena football. So you see how everything kind of tied together, right? So anyway, we were talking about the Chargers, though.
Yes,
because it's important to look at the Chargers if they have a run of hegemony atop the AFC West with Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert, and the Chiefs don't get any more Super Bowls, Patrick Mahomes. It's possible, okay, Mahomes had an injury and he wasn't the same after that. It's also possible that a couple of years of falling short, Andy Reid says, man, I got my titles. It's time to walk away and hand the baton to somebody else. I'd say probably the replacement is probably Matt Nagy, the former Bears coach, who's back on the Chiefs staff and is quite involved with offensive game planning.
They seem to be setting him up for that. Nagy could take over.
And the Chiefs are a franchise that, and especially like if you're Clark Hunt and you look at the success that you've had, the Chiefs are a franchise that has done pretty well with retread head coaches. I always say retread's not a bad word. Okay. Marty Schottenheimer,
Dick Vermeil,
Andy Reid. Now we can even go back to, hang on here. I was going to, we said Schottenheimer, Vermeil. They made the playoffs with Herm Edwards. You mentioned Vermeil, and then Andy Reid now. So it would actually fit the arc of Chiefs history. And Clark Hunt, he grew up around it. Clark Hunt's been around for all of it. He may simply feel more comfortable with somebody who's been a head coach before than, say, someone who's been around their staff, has gone elsewhere, like a Mike Kafka, for example, who's been around in some places. So that's why I'll say Matt Nagy comes in. And the Chiefs are perfectly serviceable, but Nagy doesn't have that magic that Andy Reid has.
Right.
And they have a bunch of really good seasons. Maybe they get back to a Super Bowl or two, but they don't win at all. They don't finish the task. But all the while, the Broncos are skulking around. By the way, in this scenario, they may have watched the Chargers win a Super Bowl and finally get off the schneid.
Right.
AFC
West is brutal.
Yeah. So, yeah, again, I'm focusing on what the Broncos do, not what the Chiefs do. And that's why I'm looking at this other outcome and saying, okay, yeah, it's tough to go through the wilderness, but man, rings are forever. Okay, that's I think it was John Madden used to say it's the greatest feeling in the world, and the best part is it never ends. You always have that. All those players, the coaches, the staff, they'll have that ring. I mean, the Broncos of the 2010s were a one title and out team. Does that bother me? I go to the next room. I put on a Super Bowl ring, Cease, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just a chucklehead who was writing and talking about the team. Not a player, not a coach. Imagine what it means to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You'll take the pain for the joy of getting one. And that's why, to me, as much as that image, that Photoshop image is going to give people hives, in that image, in that hypothetical, the Broncos got one. I will take it.
The Broncos get one in that. And you mentioned the Manning era. They could have got 3 out of 4 with Payton, 2014 notwithstanding. But
they weren't winning that day in the playoffs because everybody was out. I mean,
Jack
Del Rio was gone.
Staff.
Del Rio was gone. Fox was gone. Adam Gase was trying to be gone, although hoping to stay around and be the next head coach. Everyone had something going on. You look back on that day, and the Broncos were never beating the Colts.
The ultimate and checked out.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But 2012 was the best Broncos team with Manning. They didn't win at all because of Jacoby Jones.
See, I don't regard 2013 as a missed opportunity, because that team that was in the Super Bowl, that they were so injured on defense, they would have lost the Super Bowl to a lot of teams that made, we sit here right now and there have been 58 Super Bowls and thus 116 teams. And of those other 115, I think 90 of them would have beaten the Broncos in Super Bowl 48.
Right.
Because that defense had, it didn't have Derek Wolfe. It didn't have Von Miller. Raheem Moore, yes, maligned for the previous year, but he had a good season in 13. He was injured. Champ Bailey came back, was playing. Oh, Champ was playing on one foot at that point.
Yeah.
Chris Harris Jr. was out. He had to play Tony Carter extensively. God love him, but man, if Tony's having to play a lot, you're not in good shape. That Bronco team in retrospect did a lot to get as far as it did.
But in that 4 years, you would take the one.
2012, man, yes, they should have won it all in 2012. That's the one that was the best team. It's the most complete team. Every phase, all 3 phases were top tier. But that's another what if, because I have a what if on that. Respectfully to Derek Wolfe, what if they had drafted Doug Martin?
Mm-hmm.
Trade down, taking Doug Martin, the running back from Boise State, who right out of the gates in Tampa Bay was electric. If you have Doug Martin, you successfully run out the clock against Baltimore.
Yep.
Remember, he had injuries at running back. Willis McGahee.
You're relying on Ronnie Hillman.
The late Ronnie Hillman, who
I think he had 80 yards in that game, something like that.
Yeah, but the late Ronnie Hillman, not a running back to get 2 or 3 tough yards up the middle. That just, he wasn't the body type. He was a operating space speed guy.
Mm-hmm.
I still
draft that year, Mace. I had him taking Doug Martin and Levante David, and they took Derek Wolfe and Brock Osweiler.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it'd have been nice.
Doug Martin and Levante David means at least one more ring for Peyton Manning.
Did we just discover another what if? We got to stop doing this. We never stop talking. But that's where this takes you, man.
Levante, because there's another dude. Man, Levante on this team. Winner. Some guys are just winners, leaders. That's Levante, man.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a guy, like, that's an under the radar player that I would advocate for the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Love that dude.
I would agree with that.
Of course, y'all know I grew up a Bucks fan. But yeah, I would have loved Levante in Denver. I would have loved Levante in Denver. God, I loved him that year. Like,
oh yeah,
it's funny like that we're taught, like, you and I, sometimes we don't have crossover on our guys, but that year's draft, and by the way, as maligned as he became in Denver, Russell Wilson was one of my guys in that draft too. And you know what? In Seattle was pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm.
Really successful.
Well, let's take that for an example. We're talking about one ring.
Yeah.
Seattle, you got one ring.
They got one ring.
Well,
the Legion of Boom.
Wasn't that worth it?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it should have been 2 and run the damn ball and all that, but like, if we're talking about one ring, this is how hard it is to win a flipping Super Bowl.
Well, the other thing also is on the one ring eras. Broncos got one ring out, and it effectively was a no-fly zone. Peyton Manning, he still had his mind, but not much else. Okay.
Right.
Seattle, Legion of Boom, one ring. Russell Wilson, very good quarterback, probably not in the elite tier. And I just want to set that up because I'm going somewhere with this.
Okay.
Baltimore, all-time defense around the turn of the century. They got one ring. I know Ray Lewis was still there in 2012, but that was a different type of team. That dominant defense, the one that had Woodson and Sharper, Ray Lewis together, Siragusa, clogging things up the middle. They got one. Mm-hmm. Tampa Bay, which had John Lynch, Derrick Brooks, Warren Sapp, Rondé Barber, that elite defense, all 4 Hall of Famers, one ring. And even the mighty Chicago Bears of the 1980s, first with that 46 defense of Buddy Ryan. Then, believe it or not, the defense was actually even better in 1986 with Vince Tobin calling it one ring. Very good, dominant for a number of years, one ring. Here's the thing. What that tells you, and you look at the quarterbacks. Bears, Jim McMahon. Buccaneers, Brad Johnson, although he had Sean King and Trent Dilfer before. Baltimore, Trent Dilfer. And then now you can say, I mean, even though Russell Wilson's better than these other quarterbacks, you compare that to the teams that had great defenses and won multiple titles. The Steel Curtain, 1970s. Well, they had Terry frickin' Bradshaw, Hall of Famer, 2-time Super Bowl MVP, legit great quarterback. Doomsday defense, Dallas Cowboys. They had Roger Staubach, a guy who was, in terms of accuracy and mobility, we know was decades ahead of his time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Hall of Famer. If you have a great defense, you're not getting multiple titles without the Hall of Fame quarterback playing at a Hall of Fame level. And that's why I say that, because Peyton Manning, by the time the no-fly zone emerged, he was not playing at a Hall of Fame level. So,
well, let's tie it into this conversation, Mace, because they're going to build it differently. So we're saying one. Kansas City gets 4 more and Broncos get 1. They're not going to be built for 1 because they're not building a world-class defense. This isn't my Vance Joseph opinion. This is just like with Bo Nix, you're either getting multiple or you're getting none. With Sean Payton and Bo Nix, you're either getting multiple Super Bowls or you're getting none.
Hold on, though. How many did he get with Drew Brees?
1. Which
also tells you how tough it is, right? Could New Orleans and Brees and Sean Payton easily have had more?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Rams game?
The Rams game, the call. The Minneapolis Miracle. Alex Smith, I believe, to Vernon Davis at the death in January of 2012. The Saints of Sean Payton, Drew Brees had painful ways to lose. And then the final one was, it's the COVID year. So you get Tom Brady in the Superdome, but you get Tom Brady in the Superdome with nobody in the stands.
Yeah.
And it's Tom freaking Brady. Think about that. Tom Brady in year 21 in the NFL said to Drew Brees and Sean Payton, nope. Said to Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay, nope. And finally, the only ones in the Super Bowl so far who have taken the measure of Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Nope. By the way, Shaq Barrett should have been the MVP of Super Bowl 55.
Yes. 1,000%.
Respect to Tom Brady. Shaq Barrett was the MVP of that game.
Unstoppable.
Our own Shaq Barrett.
Love him.
Love him. Love him. Oh, man.
1 ring and 4 more for Kansas City or none.
We're saying 1 ring and 4 more. Not saying it doesn't hurt, but I should have. You know what? Can you just give me like 10 seconds here? Hang on.
Okay. Go get it.
Or more than 10 seconds.
More than 10 seconds, but either way. We got to do this. He's counting down. It's part of the show, right? Part of the show to do this and to do it the right way. Do you want this or do you want
11.
This with 1 ring or do you want no rings for anyone else?
Okay.
What do you want?
All right. See that? See that sucker? That's forever.
And that's real.
That's forever. That's real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They only got 1. Yeah. Nobody takes that away. There's a Lombardi and there's a ring in the trophy case. Okay. That's what it's all about. The ring, the freaking God. I do love that thing.
That thing's beautiful. It's awesome.
And, you know, oh, there we go. We got it in focus now. Look at that.
Perfect. Look at that. Looks great. Yeah. Everyone should be taking the ring.
Fills a finger, doesn't it? Look at that.
Yeah. This thing's heavy too.
Do you ever this is where one of the teams that took it to the next level with the rings. I hate to say it's the Raiders, but it was. The late Al Davis, when the Raiders won Super Bowl 11, said to the designers that he wanted a ring that was so elegant that if one of his players was appointed to the ambassador of the court of St. James, he would not have to take off the ring when in the presence of the late Queen Elizabeth II. There you go.
Okay.
And the rings have been something. I'm fascinated with Super Bowl rings. Like that's like when I have this on, it's literally like a childhood fantasy come true.
For sure.
When I hold this thing.
Yeah, it should be.
It's like, oh my God, there's a Super Bowl ring with my name on it. God, I mean, look at that. Like, I mean, holy crap.
That's awesome.
Wow. It's so cool. It's still cool.
Yes, of course. That's why you take the 1, even if it comes with 4 more for Kansas City. Flash that ring and tell us how to help us out on YouTube, Mace.
All right. Let's get that in focus there. Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you never miss a vid. That's right. He's Andrew Mason. Beautiful Super Bowl ring. Follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm Cecil Lammey saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. And would you please stay frosty?